Patty. Hey, congratulations for your documentary, Deconstructing Karen.
Thank you, Gag. I appreciate it.
And more of a congratulations is being showcased at the Mill Valley Film Festival. How do you feel about that?
So delighted, honestly, really honored. It's such a powerful and prestigious film festival, and we're really thrilled.
Terrific. That is terrific to hear. Now, I was fascinated watching your documentary because, it could went on in many different directions. But I want to know is what originated you to do this documentary in the first place?
Right. I mean, I had wanted for a long time to make a documentary about racism, but I didn't want to make a talking heads film. I didn't want to make something that would be a traditional documentary. I love traditional documentaries, but I feel like you get the people who already come to church, and I wanted to make a movie that would invite people walking by the church to come in the church. And so when I heard about Race to Dinner and this concept, it just felt like the right vehicle to make a movie that we could participate in and not just be talked at.
So how did you find Race to Dinner? How did you find the two women who participated in this?
So Syra Rao and I had a mutual friend, and we had spoken about other business opportunities a few years ago, and we became Facebook friends. And in that Facebook friendship, you probably have your own Facebook friends, you don't know well, like we talked twice, but I followed her congressional run in 2018. And I was mortified when she and her family had to go into hiding because she brought up racism. And it was the Denver area liberals, as much as the conservatives, who really came for her. And she and her family went into hiding for like a month because they had so many death threats. So I started following more keenly what she was going to do with the outcome of that run for Congress, which she ended up not winning her district, but she had an incredible turnout. Like really, if she'd run again, I think she could have taken the seat. But her takeaway was, I can probably do more to help more people outside of congressional politics. And so she started doing other anti-racism work, and I was following it along. And when I saw that they had introduced, she and Regina Jackson, they had introduced this idea of doing dinners with white women to really try to reach white women one at a time. I just thought that was a brilliant idea and very relatable to a great doc.
Now, I assume, getting permission by Race to Dinner to actually film it was one thing, but how did you manage to get the permission by the participants to actually be for the documentary?
I mean, we put out a call to action, and we asked people that did come to us through Race to Dinner who had reached out to them and said, I'd love to be at a dinner. And then we also did in our own kind of producer networks, including Facebook and other social media, that we were doing a production in the Denver area, and we were looking for white women to participate. And when those white women reached out, we had a lot of back and forth. It was an email. It basically said, we're looking for women to participate in an honest conversation about race in America, and we had engagement with people. We pre-interviewed people. They all had to sign a release. So I think what this is we all think we're on the right side of this conversation. Me 5 years ago, I mean, I was like, I'm not racist. And then suddenly through this work, I realized I actually am racist. It's super embedded in the way that we are raised. There are things that we tolerate and accept for others that we would never tolerate for ourselves. And that in and of itself is racism. And because we all kind of drink the same water and breathe the same air, we don't really identify some of these things as racism. So I share all of that with you to say, no one sees themselves as the problem, and that's part of the problem. So getting people together just to have a conversation like this is it's a great opportunity for people to learn. And even in filming this first dinner, we learned watching how it unfolded.
Was there a lot of other stuff behind the scenes? Because I know you were the fly on the wall, but I'm pretty sure their conversations were going in many other different directions that you had to cut out of the film.
I mean, I think Not really. I mean, Syra and Regina run a dinner. We stood back and filmed them run a dinner. So, everything was very much tied to their program. And this is their program. This is what they do around the country. So if there were side conversations, sometimes people will go off on their own tangent and tell you about like their cousin Bill and how he's racist. And then they'll talk about that for 10 minutes. Of course, like that kind of stuff gets edited out. But the core of the movie is really an opportunity to witness this work that Syra and Regina do.
Most excellent. And how did you feel about their? I want to say they had unusual tactics because it was being very, very honest into people's face right off the bat.
Yeah, I guess like what is unusual about that to you?
I'm just saying that some people would get taken back as it indicated in the documentary because it's sort of like it. I don't want to say ambush, but it's sort of like they weren't ready for that.
Well, I think it's a great metaphor, to be honest with you, Gig. It's a great metaphor how no one's ready for it because we don't talk about it. So like, that's the thing. Like, there's no like gentle, easy way and being like, let me show you how you're racist. Like, you just say it. And that's hard for us white women in particular, which is the movie's mostly on, to kind of, it's a tough pill to swallow. If you feel you've been trained to think, not me, not me, not me. If this work can crack open a little compassion to say, well, clearly everybody can't be on the right side of this because we still experience it. So isn't it just common sense that we should all take a step back and go, what we're doing actually isn't working. So what if we take individual personal responsibility and look at our own lives of how maybe we are part of the problem? And that's the power of this work that Syra and Regina do. They are real disruptors. They are disrupting the nice, safe, easy conversations that make no change.
Absolutely. Well, let me leave with one more thought. As audiences everywhere will be watching a Deconstructing Karen, what is the one most important take that you hope that your audiences walk away with?
I really hope that, for me, this is a movie I hope women watch with their sisters and their friends and their mom and even their grandma, that they do a potluck, they get together, they watch this movie, and then they talk about it after. And because I think because we don't have these conversations, generally, we're not having these conversations. There's a lot to unpack. And I think upon first viewing, maybe people feel insulted or hurt or fragile because, oh, not me. But what I find with this movie is it's a little haunting. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I really mean it stays with you. And I'll have people watch it and say to me, ugh, they could be so much nicer. Why aren't they nicer? And then they'll call me a week later and be like, I really sat with the message and I see why I'm part of the problem. And I know, these are trusted friends of mine for years, or they're people I just meet at a screening, and we just had a big screening in Canada. So I think the neat thing about this work is it stays with you and hopefully it changes you.
That is well said, Patty, because I definitely agree. This is certainly a conversation starter after viewing the movie. So thank you very much for this conversation, and can't wait to see what your next project following this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Gig. Wishing you all the best. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Bye now.
Really nice to meet you. Thanks again. Really appreciate you supporting the movie.
Absolutely. And thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.